Literary Analysis, Focus on Scenes by Overlooked Tutorial Academy. Now that you have read through a work once for the pleasure of it, and come to understand the unfamiliar words in it, you are ready for the real work of analysis. This article will define the terms and describe the process of analyzing the plot of a work of fiction. Look at Figure 1 for reference. Terms you should know are in boldface. The fact is that a story has as much structure as does a persuasive essay or an informational article. It is, of course, called the plot. There are basically 4 parts to a plot. The first, exposition or introduction, is the earliest part of the work. Setting, characters, at least the protagonist or antagonist, and basic problem are introduced. Sometimes this is a prologue before the actual story narrative begins, and other times it is accomplished in the first part of the narrative itself. 2. Rising action or development. The part of the work in which the story is developed and moves scene by scene to its climax. Number 3 is the climax, the moment of decision where the protagonist succeeds or fails. Then number 4 is denouement or resolution, where the decisive action of the climax plays out to the ending, or the hook to a sequel. Sometimes the narrative continues to the ending. Sometimes an epilogue is used. Generally, a work goes chronologically through the story. That is, from start to end in order of time. There are 2 literary devices that interrupt that order. The first is flashback, where the reader gets a glimpse back to the past in the midst of the story. Number 2 is flash forward, the opposite, of course, where the reader gets a glimpse into the future. Often the fun of reading is in realizing in the end that you'd been handed clues along the way that might have told you what would happen later. Every good mystery story is structured around really clever clues and a final plot twist that is really not a twist if only you'd caught all the clues. Each clue, from the title to details in the action, is a foreshadowing. So often after the fact, you can find foreshadowing all over your favorite stories. As you reread your story, keep track of it scene by scene. A scene is a segment that all happens together, or happens all in one place or time. In a novel, each chapter might be several scenes, or perhaps just one. If you are analyzing a story poem, think of stanzas as possibly each being a scene. In a short story, perhaps 3 or 4 paragraphs. The exact break points you use don't make so much difference. Use your own judgment for the boundaries of individual scenes. For each scene, make a note of the major points of action, details learned about major characters, and quotable quotes that you find. For each and every notation, identify it by line number or page and paragraph. Finally, use an organizer, like the plot mountain type above. Fill out the 3 exposition boxes first. Then decide on your exposition scenes and put their numbers on the first flat section of the graph. The climax scene goes at the apex. The other scenes take their places on the graph where they belong, before or after the climax, in order. The notes box can be used for foreshadowings and any other oddities of the plot that you want to remember as you go on. As you organize the details of plot, you are also, as you will see, gathering much of what you will need in later parts of the analysis. If you are working along with this series, go now to Literary Analysis Step 3 Example, The Lady or the Tiger. If you have any other questions, feel free to call us. And thank you.